welcome. So glad you all have taken time out of your day to join us today for our principal IDPC meeting. Hard to believe it is the middle of November and Thanksgiving is next week. Oh my goodness, don't know how that happened. But so glad to have you here today. We do have Ruth Swanson. She's going to be getting on at 9:30. And as soon as I notice that she gets on our meeting, we'll go ahead and hand it over to her. So we'll go ahead with some of our updates and things for you all so that you can see some things that are coming up and what's going on. So be sure, but if she jumps on and somebody else notices it, please don't hesitate to drop it in the chat or unmute and tell me that she's made it. But I'm going to try to watch for her. Welcome, Danielle. So glad you made it. Gonna put the sign in the chat. And so we'll go ahead and get started. Just make sure that you do sign in, and there will be ELA credit for you that you can fill out the survey at the end, and it'll email you a certificate. But just welcome. So glad to have you here today. This is our network that we're working. It's our professional work network as principals and district administrators. We do meet every third Thursday, but not in December. We will not be meeting next month. We have our shared Google folder with all our resources and information. We do record, which we are recording right now, just double checking. And just we're looking at updates and resources available. And so if you don't care, if you can, I know most of you and a lot of you already have renamed yourselves to where it has your name and then your district following it. That just kind of helps us know who's in the room with us. So if you don't care to do that, appreciate it. And a lot of you've already done that. Our agenda today, we do have Ruth Swanson and a couple of people from her division are going to be getting on. Ruth is going to join us right at about 9:30 to talk with us about our improvement plans. And she said her presentation would be about 30 minutes and she would allow about 15 minutes for questions, or ever how long is needed, for you all. And then we have our updates. And so we'll go ahead with our updates and come back to Miss Swanson whenever she gets on. So just want to make sure that we all are, aware of what's happening with the meeting format here. We do so appreciate Miss Swan being here. Swanson. Well, what did I do? I clicked on her email. Let's not email her right now. Let's go right here. There we go. I am going to share with you, Dion was not able to be with us today, but I do want to provide you with her update for November. Now, principals that are in the room, just want to make sure that you realize that they do have Teresa Combs scheduled to be November 29th, so the week after Thanksgiving. They're going to have Teresa Combs, attorney, to talk with principals on behavior and discipline when it comes to special ed. So this is something new that they're doing this year. I have dropped the link in the chat for you so that you can look at what I have pulled up right now. But this is just showing their newsletter that they have started. It also shows the directors meeting, the cadres that they have. But I just really want to point out to you as principals that November 29th, behavior and discipline, that is Teresa Combs. And it will be a great session for you all, especially in relation to special education and things to be aware of for you when it comes to behavior and discipline with our students with special needs. So just want to make sure that you are aware of that. You can see their winter conference date to be aware of. They have some great trainings lining up for that. And then spring conference and exposition that they have on April 12th. So just want to make sure you're aware of those dates. And then there's dates, wonderful information for a lot of your special ed new teachers and some of your teachers working with your autistic students. So be sure that you are aware of those. Just want to make sure that you have that information. And then I think my next is I'm going to hand it over to Bernadette. It's all yours.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad I was able to be here. I didn't think I was going to have to, going to be able to. I was headed to a district, but plans changed. So glad to be here. Glad to see you all. Uh, I'm just going to kind of touch on the cultural competence models and modules that we have, and it's called the A4 model for cultural competence. And what I usually do is I take these four, which is awareness, acknowledgement, acceptance, and action. And I combine them into it's a bigger PowerPoint that talks to us about how to create cultural competency within ourselves as well as others. So I would be happy to come out and train on this. I can do it virtually or I can come there. But if we're ever going to totally address diversity and equity and inclusion and belonging, we have to be looking really hard at these things right here. And it's very enlightening when you go through this and you start really thinking about things. So I would be happy to come and help anyone with that. Mary, change me. The equity dashboard, I'm hoping that everybody knows what that is by now and is able to access that. But if you are not, I can help you to get on it. It has all kinds of data in there that's so good. And when you're talking about your improvement plan, you need to be looking at this. And also, I want to throw out there when you are doing your improvement plan, we're required to be diverse. We're required to have inclusion for all kids. Please look at this data and make sure that you're tying in the diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it should be across the board. If you ever want to improve on your scores, and you know, we want kids to learn, but we all know that the scores are important to us and the kids are learning when they're having those good scores. But if you ever want some of those kids to improve, you're going to have to address these uh, things first, because you have to look at that individual child and determine what's going to help them. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm one that if I feel like I belong, I can learn a whole lot better. And if I have that relationship. So it's very, very important. But if you need help on the equity dashboard, please don't hesitate to contact me. I have a very simple little guide sheet that will take you through how to get into it. And it really offers, as it says in this PowerPoint, the big picture. Okay, Mary. This is just a list of some trainings that I do along, and a lot of them I do along with Brana. We can combine our stuff a lot. And we've also been doing classroom management, and quite frankly, all these things with diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, they tie into classroom management because you're looking at the individual. But I do the cultivating opportunity, which is the culture modules. I do the power of courage and connection, which connects to that. Cultural competency, which is the A4 modules. I can do them separately or I can do it in the combined PowerPoint that I have. The equity dashboard, I have a training for that if you all need that. Trauma-informed training, bridges out of poverty, emotional poverty and emotional poverty 2, the capture, curate, and share. And Ron and I have been doing some other trainings, and we've actually been trained ourselves. We are now certified in the R rules and just some, we did the framework for poverty, and that gave us the whole picture. And it's all connected. When you talk about SEL, it's all connected. So with these things that we're talking about, and SEL should be embedded throughout. But if you need anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. My email is there. That's my cell phone. You can get me directly, and I'll be happy to come and train or try to get resources that you need. I'll try to help you find those, just whatever you need. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Feel
Okay.
free to unmute or drop in the chat. Not seeing anything in the chat.
Okay. I guess it's Brana.
All right. Thank you. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Awesome job, Bernadette. Bernadette and Brana do fabulous jobs, so be sure to reach out to them if you need anything. And we'll hand it on over to Brana.
Mary's our manager.
Yeah.
Okay, the next school counselor cadre is December the 5th, 2023, and it's Michelle Searcy, from KDE. She's the new counselor director, and it's going to be a mental health session. I'm trying to yeah. So that will be really good, and that's for all counselors, not just the new ones. And then the next two cadre meetings will be February 6th and June 4th. Okay, on December the 5th, that one, I haven't sent the registration out because she just sent me a new link. So, or sent me the link. So I'll send that out probably tomorrow. Okay. It's still time to register your new counselors for November the 21st, next week. And Michelle will be there, and she did not send me an agenda, but she has all the materials with her that she will be using for the training. So by Monday, she wants, she'd like to know the total number. So if you have a new counselor, or if you know somebody else that's not on here that has a new counselor, just kind of remind them to register for this day, because it will be really, really good. So, and I can send that out again if you need me to. I think Mary might have put it in there. Did you, Mary?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
And
good.
it's on the
good.
PL calendar too. They can get it on the PL calendar.
Great. So that's gonna be a good day. Okay. Kagan, oh my gosh, Kagan is fabulous. I mean, it's the first time I'd been through any of the trainings, and you don't have a second to do any. I mean, it's really good. It's fast paced, and it's great information. I know it's great strategies, and a lot of things I didn't know about engagement. But anyway, the second day is December the 1st. So your teachers that are already registered, they'll be coming that day, and I have to remind them to bring their books with them. So Mary, you got to help me on that. So if you guys have teachers that are coming, just kind of remind them to bring their books, but we'll send out another email for them. So that's the second day, and then down at the bottom you have January 5th, February 1st, and March 8th. So I don't have a lot to go back over because Bernadette did, kind of a lot of the stuff that we do together. But I do the SEL trainings on the 5 competencies. I put components, but it's wrong. And SEL trainings for principals. We do emotional poverty, book 1 and 2, bridges, classroom management, and new teacher trainings. And also coming in January, because we're finished with the training and everything, we're going to get our our modules together, and we decided not to start in December because you have a lot going on in December in the schools. So we'll have those trainings ready in January, and the Boys in Crisis, which is really good one. And the R Rules is a lot about kids knowing their resources. So that's a good training too. So glad to see you all today, and let me know if you need anything. My information's right there. Thanks. I guess I'm done, Mary.
Awesome. Thank you, Brana. If anybody has any questions, can you share a little more about the Boys in Crisis training, Brana? Because that was a question dropped in the chat.
Was that Amanda? Hi,
Yeah.
Amanda. It's we only had like a 1 day training, and it's going to be like a short, like a session, 1 or 2 hours, but it's mostly, and it's a lot of stuff that we know, but it has strategies for boys. But anyway, how boys learn, how they learn differently from girls. Just mostly that's what it's about. So it's really good training. So and we
Yeah,
could
and within it, we can show you like how teachers can teach the kids about that, how to address it with the kids.
and we will, like, if we do another training, we can put that in, with it or add it to it. So it's really, yeah, it's pretty good.
Awesome.
I know
And
that's not answering your question
it's
that as deeply
it's
as you wanted.
it's
We
through
do
Ruby.
have like a little blurb that we could probably send, and we will send that when we're
Yeah.
sending it out for registrations, that really gives you a little overview
Explains
of
it.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it
Perfect.
Ruby
Thanks,
Payne?
ladies.
It's through Ruby Payne, right?
Yeah. This is
Yes.
all Ruby Payne.
Okay.
And the R rules, it was Ruby and Betty Souther is her name that wrote the book, and Betty did the training with us on the R rules.
She was really good. I liked her a lot.
She was. She's so passionate. Very, very
Very
good trainer.
passionate. She just wants kids to learn and to know
And
that they have someone.
Yeah, and all the resources they can, they can get, who they can go, what if they need this, if they need that. It was really good.
Awesome. I'm excited for it.
Which I love anything Ruby Payne does, because she's just so good, insightful.
For sure. All right. If there's any other questions, you all drop them in the chat. I'm trying to watch it, but we will thank you, Rana, and we'll move on to Kim, the awesome Kim Sargent. Are you there?
I feel like you, Mary's my manager too, by the way. She has an extensive group that she represents. And so just contact her for any scheduling.
Hey,
No, I'm joking.
I'm your all's PR.
That's it. It's your PR. It's been a really busy but absolutely wonderful whole semester for me. As you guys see there, we don't have any upcoming trainings. We're going to kind of really wait a little bit during December to really look at that. There's a couple that we are looking at and coming back again to increase in benchmarks. That may be one that we bring back. But just letting you guys know, I've had a phenomenal semester doing a whole lot of individual coaching and mentoring with teachers, especially working with the new teacher corps that I've been working with them. But I'm also, extending that work to any teacher that you guys have identified. I know many times it's 5th grade and 8th grade and some high school that's been identified. So, but if you have teachers that you feel just need that extra support and really understanding our standards, and most importantly, how they impact instruction and assessment, I am available for you guys. So just, contact me individually or through Mary, and we can kind of talk this up and everything. I'm going to be in classrooms tomorrow and all week next week up until Thanksgiving. So that work has become very passionate for me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. So if you all need anything at all, just holler.
Thank you, Kim. She does a fabulous job with social studies. We're just so fortunate to have Kim with us here at KVEC. Thank you. But if you have any questions, please be sure to reach out related to social studies. Next, we have Carol up. Awesome Carol Mullins. If you don't know her, you need to, because she's phenomenal with reading and writing.
Probably most of them know me because I've been around so long. But I want to quickly talk about writing, because that's where my focus has been for the past 2 months. And Mary has been with me the whole way. But in the process of doing the writing trainings, what you see in red on the screen has been what I've received the most feedback about from teachers. What's happened with the reading and writing standards is that they came out in the fall of 19, and then COVID hit in 20, and a lot of our teachers don't have the realization that the standards were revised. And so they are missing some very important components about the standards. So here's what I'm hearing in the feedback, as you can see in number 2. That awareness of how the multidimensionality view of the standards really clarifies for them what the content is that they should be teaching at their grade level, how it's supposed to be comprehended, which affects instruction, and then the next step of this is how it will be assessed. So what I felt had happened now, because we've done 6 sessions, we've done 3 sections, 3 sessions with grades 3 through 5 on the writing revolution, and we've done 3 2-hour sessions with grades 6 through 12. And the feedback that I'm getting and that Mary is hearing as we talk with the teachers always comes back a little bit to the standards. So here's the feedback. Like I said, we finished grades 3-5 session and grades 6-12. And the number one thing that jumps out always when we get to the 3rd session, where we hit that single paragraph outline, every teacher in the sessions makes the connection with how that is so helpful and can support them in teaching kids on-demand writing. What we do up until then are tools, strategies, teaching basic writing skills. And especially with our K-5 teachers, that rigor has increased with the revision of the standards. And this whole series just meets all of the criteria and everything that they need to know what to be doing at their specific grade level. Now, we will have a K2 session coming up sometime in January. But what I wanted to tell you is that this is a 6-hour session. We do it in 2-hour increments when we do the Zoom sessions. But now I am available to do them face-to-face if you are interested in that, or if you want to find out more about it. But we have received nothing but good feedback about how helpful this is in teaching kids how to write. And through the whole process, I make the connection of where this shows up in our standards and why they should be doing this. So just as they've all said, Mary is our PR person. If you my email, you can get me by email, but we will have the regional K2 trainings by Zoom in January. That's it, Mary.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carol. And it really has been wonderful sessions. Some of the teachers of how excited they are with it. Some of them have even asked about, could there even be something more later on? And so trying to think through that, and we are always open to suggestions of what can best help you all. So please always kind of give us some tips on how we can better serve you all and help you all. Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions for Carol, please don't hesitate to unmute or drop questions in the chat, but she is available also to come to your districts. I am going to stop sharing my screen right now because I'm so glad to welcome Ruth Swanson and her team at KVE with us. And so I have already made you a co-host. So welcome, Ms. Swanson. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
You are very welcome. I am glad to be here, and please be patient with me. I have never presented on Zoom before. All of our stuff is done through Microsoft Teams. So I will do my best to share and get everything all situated. So let me see if I can start by sharing my PowerPoint here.
Well, you look like a pro to me.
Well, we'll see. Hang on to that thought. All right, so are you seeing my
I see
PowerPoint slides?
I see your slides. I can see like in PowerPoint, it's not the slideshow, it's your slides, individual slides. Yes.
All right, let me see if I can. So you're not seeing just the first slide?
No, I'm not seeing just that. So click
Let's
that
see if
play
I
from
can-
beginning.
I've got it on one of my screens, but not the other. Let me try something else here. Well,
Are you looking at two monitors?
I am.
Uh,
That might be the problem.
when you share and it comes up, pick the one that it'll ask you for two different. It will give you multiple options to select. There you go. Now that's your slideshow. That's it.
All right,
You
let's
got
try this then. All right, well,
Awesome,
good morning,
yay.
and yeah, thank you. So my name is Ruth Swanson, and I'm the program manager with District 180, which, if you're not familiar, is the school improvement branch at KVEC. And so we provide guidance and support around school improvement planning. So CDIPs and CSIPs, excuse me, as well as schools that have been federally identified for comprehensive school improvement or targeted school improvement. So lots going on in our branch. Well, and now my slides aren't moving on my slideshow.
So go click on the screen where the slideshow is, and now click. There you go.
Thank you so much. I'm learning today. So my hope by the end of our session here is that you will finish with an understanding of several things. First of all, are just the requirements of phase 3 of the continuous improvement planning process. We really want to talk about how the needs assessment and that whole process should really inform your continuous improvement planning. We will take a look at the goal building templates for both the CDIP and the CSIP, because those have been revised just a little bit for this year. And then we will share just a few basic tips for navigating the platform where your diagnostics are housed, that continuous improvement platform, or the SIP as we call it. So I always like to start off when we talk about improvement planning with the regulation, because I really think that there are important definitions within the regulation. And it's also important to know that our timeline, so all the phases, are actually a part of regulation as well. So there's not a lot of changes, or I know this year we got asked a lot if we could extend the phase 2 because of how late data came out. We are not able to, grant those extensions because they are actually in regulation and in statute. But I like to point out that the definition of a CDIP in the regulation is a plan developed by the local school district with input of parents, faculty, staff, and representatives of school councils. And the CSIP is defined as a plan that's developed by the school council with the input of those stakeholders, parents, faculty, and staff. And so I like to point out that it really is designed to be a collaborative process. And it's not intended to be the principal or the superintendent or just a leadership team, creating these and developing these plans, but it's really designed to be a more collaborative process. So this slide just kind of gives you an overview of all the different phases. We just finished phase 2, so hopefully you made that November 1 deadline, and those diagnostics have been submitted in the SIP. If you are a superintendent or a principal, you will actually receive notification either later today or tomorrow, letting you know which of your phase 1 and phase 2 diagnostics are completed and which ones are still hanging out there not complete yet. So look for that. So today, what I really want to just look at specifically are the requirements of the current phase, which is phase 3 that runs from now until January 1st. As I mentioned before, we do have what we call goal building templates, and those are offline templates that are going to be uploaded with your actual CSIP or CDIP diagnostic, and that has changed just a little bit this year, and we'll take a look at those. It's important to remember that CSIPs and CDIPs are actually developed as 3 to 5 year plans. So even though you're asked to create a new diagnostic each year, you really should be working on a more long-term plan, 3 to 5 years. And so that means that that continuous improvement process involves really just reevaluating your needs each year, and then taking a look at your previous plan, at the strategies and the goals to see if any revisions are indeed needed. And so we like to use the words adopt, adapt, or abandon. So as you are reviewing your plan each year, you're going to determine, are there new strategies, activities, or goals that we really need to adopt that have not been a part of our plan? You may find that there are goals and or activities that you just need to adapt a little bit, a little tweak here or there to make it more effective. And then you may indeed find that there are some goals or some activities and strategies that just are not being effective for either the needs of your students or your staff, and so those need to be abandoned. So that's what we like to think about when you're looking at your previous year's plan. So as I mentioned at the beginning, it's really important that the needs assessment inform your improvement planning. And so to make that a little bit more intentional this year, we put 2 new elements as part of the planning template to really make sure that you're thinking about that alignment. So when you go to the new template this year, there'll be a section that asks you to just respond about your priorities and concerns that you identified as part of your needs assessment process. So it will ask you to list 2 or 3 of the greatest areas of weakness that you identified in question 5 on the needs assessment. And those 2 or 3 areas should be thoroughly addressed in your strategies and activities that you put in your goal building template. And so oftentimes we see schools or districts who, for that question 5 on the needs assessment, just copy and paste their data for every content area. Here's where we are in reading, here's where we are in math, here's where we're on social studies, everything's a priority. Well, you know that old phrase that if everything's a priority, nothing really is. So we really encourage folks both on the needs assessment and then on this new section of the CDIP and CSIP template to really narrow it down. What are those 2 or 3 areas that really need the focus of your resources and your efforts this particular year? And then there's another section that will ask you to go back and think about what you put on your key elements template, which was something that you uploaded with your needs assessment. So again, it asks you to list 2 or 3 of the processes, practices, or conditions that you identified when you reviewed the key core work processes as part of your needs assessment. So again, you're going to transfer what you put on that key elements template to the front page of your goal building template. And that way, as you are starting your plan, it's right there in mind, and you can really think about truly aligning your strategies and your activities in your plan. One other new section that is on the first page of the goal building template is just a table where we ask you to list the score or the status score and the change score for each of the indicators. So every school gets an overall status score and an overall change score for the indicators. Districts actually get a status score for each level. So elementary, middle, and high school. and then they get a change score for each level, elementary, middle, and high school. So a CDIP will look, the table on it will look just a little bit different than this one here. This is the school one. And on the CDIP, you're asked to list each of those levels. What was the overall status for elementary, for middle school, and for high school? And so again, this is just an opportunity to, at the beginning of your plan, just as a reminder, here's our current status. Here's where we are right now. And so that thinking then can move into your actual planning. I do want to point this out because it is a little bit different in the platform this year. You've always been asked to upload your goal building template to your CSIP or CDIP diagnostic in the continuous improvement platform. This year, what is a little bit different is that we need that attachment to be associated with this particular question on the diagnostic. And so if you're like me, in years past, when you were going to upload an attachment, you went all the way to the bottom of the page, and there's a place there where you can upload attachments. But in order for your attachment to register, it has to be associated directly with this question. So you see letter B there. It says upload your completed template in the attachment area directly below. And so we're talking about directly below right there. So you're going to click that circle and it'll turn blue. And then you're going to want to click on that little arrow in front of the word attachments. And there'll be a section open up right there where you can upload that attachment. So it does need to go right there. If you attach it at the very bottom of that page, it will not register. And so it will show that your diagnostic is not complete. So that's something we get a lot of phone calls about this year. If you go on to the Comprehensive Improvement Planning webpage, that's where you can find links to both the CDIP template and the CSIP template. I do also want to point out that we have rubrics that are available. These rubrics are what we use. We do pull a sampling of CSIPs and CDIPs each year to do a thorough review of. And so if you were to be one of the lucky ones to be chosen for that, you would get feedback on these rubrics, and they would either indicate that each element meets the requirements, or it would provide feedback as to what you need to work on in order to meet those requirements. And we would go back and forth with you until all of those requirements were satisfied. And so we encourage folks to just pull down that rubric and use it as you're going through and creating your CSIP or CDIP, just as kind of a reminder what we would be looking for in each of those areas. So I think those are a little bit helpful. So what I'd really like to do, and this will be interesting to see if I can get this going here. I do have a copy of the CSIP that I can pull up, and I just kind of like to walk through it and just share some frequently asked questions or areas where we often see some issues in there. So let's see if I am able to do that. Need to see if I can find where to stop sharing. Oh, it's over here now. All right. So
You can actually you can drag it over to the screen where your PowerPoint is if you want to. That's one way to be able to.
that might be easiest.
If you have that document and can drag it over to the other display where the PowerPoint's being shared, that's a way you can do that.
Looks like you may still, are you still seeing the PowerPoint?
I still see the PowerPoint, yeah.
Let's try this.
There it is. Got it.
All right, good deal. So let me scroll up here. So the first thing I want to point out is, like I said, because this has been revised a little bit, you want to make sure that your copy that you are working on says updated June of 2023. That way you will have that new page on there with the additional elements. So the first page, just kind of a general overview, gives you all the legal information. And then here's the new page that has been added. So this is the section where I told you you'd be asked just to kind of talk about the priorities and concerns from your needs assessment. So you're just going to transfer it right here to this box. Same thing with the processes, practices, or conditions. That's what you determined when you went through and completed that key elements template. And so you're going to put that right there. And then here's the chart where you're going to put your scores. There's been a little bit of confusion, remember, and if you've seen any of the Office of Assessment and Accountability webinars or talks, they did a great job of kind of explaining the difference between a score and a rating and a level. So remember that a score is a number. And so you're going to be putting the numbers in here, not a color, not a level. So score is a number. This page, some people talk about it as the red page. It's just hopefully giving you some helpful definitions, explanations for what we really want to see in each of those areas within the template. And so then you get to the tables for each indicator. Keeping in mind that this is a 3 to 5 year plan, your goals should be written as 3 to 5 years as well. So you could be, let's say, in year 2 of your 3 to 5 year plan right now. And maybe your goal last year was to have like 49% or to increase your percentage of students who are proficient or distinguished in reading from 49% in 2022 to 55% in 2026. So that was your goal last year. If that is still an appropriate goal and you're still working towards that for 2026, you can use that same goal this year. And you're still going to say, our goal is to move from here in 2022 to here in 2026. What will change, though, is your objectives. Because remember, objectives are yearly targets. And so you're going to take a look at, let's say last year, you actually exceeded your objective for last year. Your objective for last year was to go maybe from 49% to 55%. And you went, actually, you got 56% proficient and distinguished. So my objective for this year then might be to increase from 56% to 64% by next year, by 2024. So goals can remain the same throughout that 3 to 5 year if they are still appropriate. Now, if you notice, let's say your goal was to hit 70% in 2026 and you're already at 65%, you may want to up that goal now. You may want to revise it because of what you're seeing in your data. So kind of think about that. The other thing I want to point out in both this indicator as well as the science, social studies, and writing indicator is that you can write a specific reading goal and a specific math goal, or you can prioritize. And if you really need your resources and efforts focused on reading, you can just write that reading goal. And the same thing is true for the science, social studies, or writing. You can write it for all, or for a couple, or just one. And so again, be thinking about what we like to say is that your school improvement plan should not be a list of everything you are doing, all your day-to-day stuff. It should really focus on, here are those critical areas that everybody is focused on and that need our resources and efforts right now. So that doesn't mean because you don't put a math goal, you're not worried about math, you don't do anything in math, obviously. But we really want the improvement plan to be just that. What are those specific areas that we're really looking to make improvements on? So think about that as you're going through. The other thing I like to point out on this is the progress monitoring section. This is one of those sections where we often see insufficient detail. And so if we were to pull yours and use that rubric, this would likely be one of those areas where you would be asked to go back in and add some additional information. So you want to be sure that you are including who, and it doesn't need to be a person's name, but it can be the role, is going to gather and look at what, and when or how often. So all that needs to be included in progress monitoring. Who's looking at what and when or how often. The other thing we like to say is that if you think about it, that should not be identical probably for each indicator. You are dealing with different staff, different content, different strategies probably. And so it probably should not look identical for each of the indicators in there. We also like to remind you it's not good to have one person or one role responsible for monitoring the entire plan that you have on there. I will just mention quickly the achievement gap. You notice there's no goal because these are just yearly targets. This is not actually an accountability indicator, but it is something that is required in statute. If you're a principal, the objectives you put here are those that are going to be looked at by your superintendent when they have to go back and review if there are any schools that didn't meet their achievement gap goals for 2 consecutive years, because they report that on the superintendent gap assurance. And we'll take just a brief look at that here in just a little bit. But so these are objectives that you are setting for whatever gap groups you see in your data. And these are the objectives that your superintendent will look at to see which schools met them and which didn't for 2 consecutive years. We have been getting a lot of questions about the English Learner Progress Indicator because it is new as of last year. So a couple of things you want to think about. First of all, we get the question, if we only have a few students, do we still need to write a goal? If you are a district or a school that has any English learner students, you do need to have a goal and a plan for strategies and activities to support their language acquisition. If your numbers are very low, and let's say your data was actually suppressed, then you just want to make sure that you craft your goal in a more general way. So it's not going to, give any indication as to how students individually may have scored. So your goal may just be about how many levels you want all EL students to increase on the access test or on the EL growth table. So that doesn't give you any indication about where the students currently are. You're just saying that you want them to move this many levels in the next 3 to 5 years, and then for your objective by next spring. So that's one thing we get a lot of questions about. The other thing we get a lot of questions about are like the strategies and activities. Again, because this indicator is based on the access assessment, which assesses language acquisition, you don't want to put strategies and activities related to reading instruction or achievement or math instruction or achievement. You want these to be strategies and activities to increase the acquisition of English for your EL students. So be thinking about what that might look like. If you need to focus on reading and math for your EL students, that would go up in your reading and math indicator area because they get a reading and math score just like everybody else. So this needs to be in language acquisition. The one thing I'll mention about the quality of school climate and safety, the office that is responsible for that survey has suggested that goals be written around the index scores that you get for each of the areas for the school climate and for the safety. That was their suggestion in terms of goals. I'm going to scroll all the way down and just mention, if you are a principal that and your school has been identified for either targeted support and improvement, TSI, or comprehensive support and improvement, CSI, there are additional pages at the very end of your template that you're responsible for. And so we do want to remind everybody about that. Here's what the TSI addendum looks like. This is a whole webinar in and of itself to kind of talk about that. And in fact, we just had that last week. And then there is also a page for the CSI schools. I will also mention on the CDIP template, there is a section for the district to respond if you have schools that were identified TSI or CSI. So that will be kind of an additional piece there. Let me think about what else. Let's see if I can go back to my PowerPoint at all. Are you still seeing this template?
Still see the template.
Okay, let's see if I can. See if I can start over.
Okay. Now I see the presentation, but it's not in the slideshow mode. It's I see all the slides on the left.
Well, I won't waste our time trying to fix it. There's just a couple of slides left. I did mention the superintendent gap assurance. And so remember that if you're a superintendent, you're going to go actually into the last 2 years of CSIPs, and you're going to take a look at those gap achievement goals and see which schools did or did not meet the goals that they set, the objectives that they set for themselves over the last 2 years. Just a couple of reminders about those offline templates. The key elements template was with the needs assessment, and then the goal building template needs to be uploaded with your CSIP or CDIP diagnostic. Just a couple of quick tips. Please do not put links to outside documents within your diagnostic. Oftentimes, if we pull yours to review, we click on a link and we don't have access. And so that really slows the process down. If there is something that you want to be sure that we see, you need to attach that as a separate document and don't rely on links in there. The other thing I'll just point out is that on our comprehensive improvement planning webpage, there is a SIP user manual. So if you're struggling with navigating the continuous improvement platform, that might be a first place to start. But also don't hesitate to reach out to us at any time. I always like to mention some of the diagnostics, the content of them is not owned by our branch. There are other branches within our office that deal with the content of some of those diagnostics. So these are the contact people if you have content questions. Our office will definitely work on any technical aspects and, navigating that improvement platform. But if you have content related questions about those diagnostics, there's other folks that you can reach out to. The last one I will just mention there, my contact information. Natalie Guashiri is a program consultant in our branch. Natalie works with CSIPs and CDIPs as well as schools that have been identified for CSI. We do actually have a new consultant, but I'm not going to put her contact information out there just yet. We don't want her thrown to the wolves quite yet. So, but just know that we do have another consultant that as she kind of gets onboarded and up and running would be available to assist you as well. And I'll just leave you with, the thoughts about reflecting on really thinking about how your needs assessment can inform your CSIP or your CDIP moving forward, and really think about how you might use anything new that you learned today in your planning process for your school or your district.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Is it all right for us to open it for questions?
Sure.
All righty. If anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute or drop your questions in the chat. Be happy to for any questions to be shared. Sure, if you have a question, somebody else does too.
I do have a question. This is Greg Napier. How you doing?
Hey,
Doing
Mr.
well.
Napier.
The question is, again, I just want to make sure I heard this correctly. In terms of writing the goal for reading and mathematics, we met our reading goal, for 2026. So I do not have to include reading goal in that part. I just simply focus on math, correct?
Yep, if that's your area of need and you really want to focus on that, that's appropriate.
Okay. Very good. And then with the achievement gap goals, if, for instance, I know students with disabilities, that was an issue we discovered hadn't been one, but this year it was for us. I've got that, not a problem. But for free and reduced, I find more of an issue with males, let's say, than females. So should I dig down that deep on that goal as well?
Absolutely. I think that would be very appropriate.
Awesome. And the last question, and you kind of addressed the climate and safety with that. In terms of writing 2 objectives, I should write one for climate perhaps and one for safety. Is that correct? As opposed to combining the 2?
You can, and yeah, like I said, from the folks that are responsible for that content, they suggested using those index scores. Now, if you notice, let's say one of those is much different than the other one, if your climate is much different from your safety and you just want to focus on climate, again, I think that would be appropriate just to focus on that if it seems reasonable.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ruth.
You bet.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat at this time. If anybody else wants to unmute or drop in the chat, happy to have those questions. Ms. Swanson, would you mind to email me the PowerPoint so that I can send it to everyone so that they have
Yes.
a copy of it? And
Yeah,
I'll
I'd be
also
happy to.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You have a comment in the chat. Very helpful info. Thanks, Ms. Swanson, is what it
Yeah.
says in the chat for you.
You're very
And
welcome.
thank you.
And thank you for being patient with my technical issues.
Well, you were a rock star. You adapted very well. Well done, to
Thank
you.
you.
You did awesome with it. But thank you so much. Different thank yous coming in the chat, but appreciate you taking the time because I know this is that time when everyone's looking at these and where there are a few changes. Just so thank you for coming and sharing this information to help guide us through the process.
You are very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful. That was really good information. I learned a lot there. I don't know about everybody else, but that was very helpful for me with the whole process. I will, on the slideshow, put a link on her slide to her PowerPoint when she gets it to me, and I will email, well, I'll drop it in the chat, our folder that we have, so it will be in the November folder. I'll put just her PowerPoint presentation in there, but I'll also put a link to her PowerPoint on our slideshow so that you can look at whichever one that you want to on that. Just to make sure that you have access to that. Also, we do have this recorded, so if you wanted to go back and re-listen, I really appreciate the questions that you all had because that is very, very helpful to help clarify anything. So you can always go back and listen if you need to. There's just a few more slides and then I will drop in the chat, but I do have one thing I'm going to ask of you all. I got a very interesting phone call yesterday that I spoke with someone from a nonprofit. Now, I have no idea what might come from it. So I'm going to drop in the chat. It's basically a nonprofit that they're wanting to help schools in need. And so I have just a little survey that's a one question, and I want you to think about, and if you would, please take a moment. Principals really need your input on this because I'm going to even ask for your name, email, your district, school, because they're just wanting to help. And I asked them, I said, is there a caveat that if you help them, they have to do anything? And she said no. She said the whole thing is just wanting to help. And their first thing was they were thinking books might be a need for districts. But she said, as she was asking, that might not be the greatest need. So just be honest, thinking of your kids in your school that have the greatest needs, what would be a resource, something that would be of benefit for those kids to help give them a boost to be a little more successful. So I'm going to drop in the chat for you all this survey link. If you will take just a second to think on that and to put whatever you feel, because I told her I would get back with her this afternoon or tomorrow with comments from you all, because I told him, I said, well, you're in luck. I have the perfect group to ask. Now, like I said, I don't know what will come of it. She did not mention amount of money. She did not that they had, but it would not be money, but it would be the resource that you are saying that you need. And so I asked her, I said, well, are there stipulations? Does it need to be schools that are in the flood region? She said no, that it did not have to be the districts that had flooding. She said the biggest thing was a school in need that had students in need. So, like I said, don't know what's going to come of it, but I'm going to put it out there for you. If you will take a second to just and if you'll just pull up that survey and have it on a tab, and maybe you need a little time to contemplate that, I can wait till tomorrow to look at it and to give her a phone call. But that will just help, because just want to make sure that I ask, because what is it that your students in need are that would be a benefit to them? So if you'll take just a second to that, I did not want to miss that and not get to share that with you all. So I'm going to have that in the chat. Just going through some little updates. We do have Megan Martin. If someone signed up, I'm sending them the information for each of the sessions. So the registration is still there, just to make sure that everybody is aware of that. And her next topic is progress monitoring tools for behavior. So if you are interested in that, please, share that with your counselors or anyone in your district that might be a need there. Those are all on the PL calendar too. The next thing is we have one more date of our science leadership standards implementation. Different co-ops had these. Our last date is December 7th, just FYI. Some of you are signed up for it. Some of you are going to KEDC or SCSC, and that's fine. But if it happened that you couldn't make that date, you can come to our meeting, because the meetings are basically the same at each co-op. The building bridges, the empathy interviewing, due to scores coming out when we had we have made a change, and we're going to make it virtual. This building bridges empathy interviews with KDE, that is the the Division of Innovation, will be doing these, and we're going to do it virtual because it being in January, weather is so uncertain. We had that conversation that it might just be best to do a virtual session. So I dropped that link in the chat, and that is also on the PL calendar, just so that you are aware of those. Math trainings. We had a training for the 15th on high cognitive demand task in mathematics. We did not have enough to justify having the training, so we are going to try to re-offer that in the summer. Maybe when subs are not so much an issue, but we will be having the 30th high cognitive demand task for grades 6 through 12, because we already have enough to have that. So if you have not had teachers sign up for this, would recommend that Stephanie Kidd will be providing, and me teaming up with her as the general ed side. So be great to send a team of your math teacher and your special ed teacher who co-teaches, collaborates with them. So just want to make sure of that. Here's a new one that's going to be December 6th. Don't know how many of you have those 3D printers, but our Holler guys are going to do an after school 4 to 5 training on your 3D printer. So that would be a great thing for some of your tech people. So be sure to share that. with anyone in your district that has access to those 3D printers, but our hauler guys are going to provide that, and they're going to do it virtually and to go through and do this training. So just want to make sure you're aware of that one. We already went through, talked about this, so you are well aware of that deadline. Our new teacher network is this evening, and please make sure to try to encourage those new teachers to attend, because we have the awesome Kim Sargent. She is going to be doing the question formulation technique today. That's just going to be a general session for all content areas, not just social studies. So making sure I sent out a reminder of that earlier yesterday, and I did include PD coordinators on that so that you could also share that out. It had the Zoom link. We have one more deeper learning session for our principals and assistant principals. That's January 16th. And I was so thrilled that they shared the thoughtful classroom tools with this document last time. So if you did not get that, let us know. We'll help you out with that access to that. And Johnny did mention that we're going to look at least maybe, if we can't get all 3 books for the principals that have attended, we'll at least try to get one for you all that have attended. So for the Principal Academy for Deeper Learning. So one more day with that coming up. Already mentioned the Principals Academy for the Principal Support Network with Special Ed, and that behavior and discipline that Teresa Combs is going to do. That's the with attorney, just kind of going through the, what to know, what to do, what not to do when we're talking about behavior and discipline with special ed. So being aware of those. Action research. Your deeper learning coaches are in the process of doing their first phase of their action research. They're going to be providing a video. There's consultation hours. So if there's any questions, please do not hesitate to direct them to Johnny or myself or Kim Sargent with that. But they're in the process of doing their draft and getting ready of what they're going to be doing their research on. And so getting those videos ready. MTSS network, we kicked off on Tuesday, had Kentucky Abry there and KDE, Melissa Wainwright. That was a great session. The next meeting for it is January 30th. DAC network is tomorrow. So we have KDE coming with some updates and going to try to talk about the data dashboard. We had our data day on the 10th and the 13th. We have a district that we are going to be going to and doing a day-to-day with them, like what we did in person on the 10th and virtually the 13th. But if there's anything we can do, we did email out the dashboards. So superintendent's DAX doses, you should have a copy of that. If you have any trouble with those, please let us know. And give us suggestions. That's something I'm going to talk with the DAX with tomorrow of, how do we make this better, or what else could you need? So wanting to discuss that with DAX tomorrow. But for us, no meeting in December. We will not meet in the month of December. Our next meeting will be January the 18th. So I will not see you till the new year. Hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday. But if you need anything, I am right here. If for any questions, we do have the PL calendar and the Padlet and the folder. So I'm going to drop those in. Oh, thank you, Ms. Gorman. I'm so glad you liked them. Please give us feedback on how to make things better. I do want to mention on the Padlet, there is okay, I just stored, I am going to pull it up because there's something I want to make sure that you all are aware of with KDE. This one right here, register now for the HQIR Adoption Support webinar on the 20th. I have signed up for that myself. So that is all connected to the requirements around this Senate Bill 156. So if you have not signed up for that and you are especially elementary principals, if you want to make sure that you know what's going on with that, district folks, just want to make sure you are aware of that. And this is kind of talking about the steps that they're going to go through, but just make sure someone in your district is there. But I will be attending it. But that was the one thing I wanted to make sure you were aware of from the Padlet that was on there. So just make sure that you are aware of that. The PL calendar, we're updating that regularly with different trainings. And there's the folder, which I will put the folder, this PowerPoint in there as soon as I get Miss Swanson's PowerPoint. I'll put a link on her slide, but I'll also drop her PowerPoint in that folder for November. So just so that you're aware of that. And we're done, y'all. Yay. Are we early? We are early. Yay. So I'm going to drop in the chat your feedback survey. And
Mary, Carol put something in the chat that you might want to share.
I just thank you so much, Bernadette. She did forget to mention that we are providing the Writing Revolution book. When she does the training, it's not at a cost, and the book is being provided, and it really is a great resource. I've sat in her trainings, and it is very helpful, and I am a math science person saying that, so let me just tell you. So just mentioning that, but definitely thank you for reminding us of that, Carol. Appreciate that. I am dropping in the chat the link to the feedback survey. It should email you. Go ahead and leave it as 2 hours because we are over the hour mark. Because I know you're going to be going and looking at some of that information from CSIP, CDIP. Some of you are going to be going to the Padlet and looking at some of that stuff too, of things that are coming up, that making sure of what you might want to register for that HQ hour, and also doing that survey for me. Please, please take time to do that survey on the students in need. What is a resource they could benefit from? If you'll help me out with that, I would greatly appreciate it. Like I said, I don't know what will come of it, but hey, they're offering. We'll see what happens with that. But thank you all so much for being here today. Appreciate you all taking time out of your busy schedules. And I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving next week and a wonderful Christmas. If there's anything any of us at KVEC can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. And once you get your feedback survey, you are good to go. And we got done early. Look at us.